The big board is here, and as someone that clocked 3 big board finalists last year, entirely off of stream drafts, only putting in about half the max entries, feel good about our prospects here once again as we strap in for another run of big board drafts here on Splash Play. But today, though, we're going to look at some of the drafts I've done so far off stream. Later on in this video, we're going to hop to my first stream big board draft of the year. We're going to talk about what the plan is for the year, roughly right now. Let's get into it. And my main observation right now from the big board, and this is going to be something I think a lot of people don't want to hear, and it's part of why I was willing to punt the first 2 drafts. In addition to the fact that, like, dealing with Luca the last few days, or few days really, last 6 days of the week while the wife's out of town. And good news, guys, she's going out of town again for a work trip to Germany. So we're going to be doing really great in this channel here. I didn't feel like there was an edge. I really didn't feel like there was an edge drafting my first teams. I'll show you guys on screen here the first one I drafted before we hop into a draft. Again, I drafted 4 in total here, usually at nighttime. One of them during a football game. I was dealing with Luca, so that's not that good. Basically, the main thing for me is I think rookies are really mispriced this year. Like really mispriced. And I appreciate all the chats as well. Even though I'm not hitting these up top here. Lots of excitement. Appreciate you guys being excited to be here. And we'll get the party started, quote unquote, in a moment here. The main thing to me, though, is like, first of all, I guess key take would be rookies really overpriced, no matter where you're going. Ashton Genty, I haven't gotten a single share of him yet, I don't believe, because of the fact that people are reaching him for him at pick 15, 16, 17. I've been picking around 20 a lot, haven't gotten Genty going my way once. So that's the first to hear. The rookies you actually want to get, they're maybe a little bit lower priced than I thought they would be. Genty in particular, I thought would go with the 1-2 turn. He's not there yet. He's probably going to get there. Even though I think the combine testing might end up knocking him back down a little bit more. That's basically the push-pull right now. But where they price rookies and where people are taking rookies right now, you can see I took Marion Hampton, guy we talked about in the running back preview. I thought looked pretty good. Big-bodied guy, but a 4.5-ish back, maybe 4.55 back. Not a guy who's going to get that steam up and draft capital from amazing athletic testing, basically. He's going in the 50s. So that's sort of where the ADP landscape is. You're paying for guys like Hampton. He here broke my 0 RB run at pick 49. There's some value for your Kenneth Walker, your Aaron Jones, a free agent. I took 2 Seattle backs, a little bit of a change in approach for me. Marshawn Lloyd is free. We're going to go back and die on that hill one more time. Really, the main thing is that rookies overpriced. Running backs, really hard to not take in the first few rounds. You can see this RB room here. When I didn't take a guy in the first couple rounds, I feel like it's much weaker for it. I do think as a result, you're going to be naturally forced into more hero RB builds, more bimodal RB builds. Wide receivers, you get some good values. A.J. Brown, I've seen on social media people talking about this a lot. Him going at the late 20s when big board first opened, probably to come down a little bit more. He's mispriced. Besides that, though, race receiver, you have a lot of different pockets you can grab. A lot of guys I think are misvalued. I will plant a flag right now. The most misvalued team overall, most misvalued stack is Jacksonville. So Liam Cohen, everybody made fun of the Duval, the fucking weird way he said that, trying to make himself sound cool. The Jacksonville Jaguars hip-hop slant of how they say Duval. Still a team that's mispriced because of the fact that Liam Cohen should be able to fix this up. If he was able to kind of get that Bucs team where it needed to be a year after losing Dave Canales, I think it's going to be the same thing for Jacksonville. And these guys are all, besides Brian Thomas, who's a top first-round pick, these guys are all priced in the mid-100s. So Christian Kirk, who should be getting that Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp adjacent slot role, he's too cheap in the mid-150s. Trevor Lawrence, 130 is too cheap. Evan Ingram, as Nolan points out, going to the 160s, 170s, too cheap. The entire team is too cheap right now. So really trying to get ahead of guys that underperformed last year but have material changes to their situation this year be the first thing I would say, too. It's really important to note for kind of the current player ecosystem as opposed to the rookies. Besides that, I think there's still some good value at tight end. Trey McBride, another guy I like. There's a lot of ones to go out there overall. See, I wouldn't forget about Gabe Davis either. Gabe Davis is free in drafts, and he's under contract. So one thing I'll say for me that I know a lot of people out there may not do quite as much, looking up spot track for these guys' contracts over and over again, seeing who actually has a team out this year in terms of like they get cut for less money, not a lot of dead cap. That's a key part of things. Like Christian Kirk's could be on this team, like unless they trade him, which they still could do. But I find it hard to believe Kirk being one of the guys who was at the press conference, the debut for Liam Cohen there, along with Trevor Lawrence, along with some of the defensive guys, along with Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's still a key part of what they're doing. So just kind of being aware of that. It was a big observation last year as well for when guys like Joe Mixon didn't get drafted very much. Trying to go through here. Tight end, late tight end, I think still works well. For the Giants, I will say one bet that I'm making a lot, and this could change a little bit as the year goes on, but currently, I think Cam Ward ends up the Giants QB. I think his style of play and where the Giants are is going to lead to a little more of an interest there than for Shedeur Sanders. I also think that Cam Ward is going to create a lot of production for this team, so Cam Ward stacks with Neighbors, Cam Ward stacks with Wandale. Cam Ward stacks with Theo Johnson. I guess I just had the Theo Johnson side of that. But I think the Giants are going to be a lot better team because Cam Ward, to me, his play at Miami, I think, elevated that entire team. And I would say for Cam Ward, he's the one rookie. He's not Jaden Daniels, to be clear. He's not even AR in terms of how I'd approach things, where I think he's a flawed prospect with a lot of fantasy upside. I think he's just a good QB. He's going to evolve and probably play from day one. So I feel about that. Ingram, Kirk, and ATN are all question marks. Mac Jones at Mayo's first press conference. All right, if you want to read the press conference thing, that's fine. You can read into the contract thing. I don't think they're question marks. I don't think you can't cut the entire team when you're bringing in a coach who's kind of designed to get you to being about a 500 or better team this year. Like Liam Cohen, they're hiring him to make a leap up with the talent they have. And that's the key difference too, is like not every team is a tear down team. Like some teams are not going to be tear down teams because they have enough parts of a roster there. So no, I really strongly disagree that those guys are question marks. I think I would say it's a borderline dumb take to have with their ADPs. Dumb question marks, but I'm unfamiliar with the big board. It's just a variant of best ball. Yes, best ball, but it's pre-NFL draft, so you have less information. You kind of have to extrapolate more on free agency, rookies, and all of that if you're not familiar. I don't know, Mr. Popinski didn't know that. But yes, last year we did a lot of drafts here. All my big board drafts were on stream, and I advanced 3 to the finals last year out of 68 teams I put in. I agree with that too. I also feel that way about Keenan Allen and all that. But I really think that in the spot. See, like, why? Like, for what Liam Cohen just did with an offense, there was K-Dot in spike weeks. There was Mike Evans spike weeks. There's Chris Godwin, a ton of usage there. RB's got good work. Like, you just saw the offense work. Why would, whatever. Do whatever the fuck you want, Jason. I don't really care about your take. No respect to Jason. I don't care about your takes. My take is mine. I'm usually pretty good about the stuff. I'm going to go with my take on it. Other teams I build here, we got a Jaden team. So one thing that I saw, hard to get Jaden McLaurin together. You kind of have to go to your way to do that. I'm not really willing to do that with McLaurin's price tag and Jaden's price tag where they are. That said, this one I got Jaden at 39. Trevor Lawrence again in this build. Joe Mixon got him as a 13 pick value. Connor, who I think people will assume is going to lose a role, did close the year hurt and all that. For James Conner in the spot, I think you maybe see a little bit more overall of the backup backs there. I would say that I'm not really sold on anything we saw from year one for any besides James Conner. So I'd say for him overall, I think Connor's still a good pick at his range. I think trying to go with guys who had volume last year, who earned roles, there's nothing changing about the team really. Still guys to lean on. Connor a little bit too cheap. Tyrone Tracy, another guy here being rumored in some drafts, get another RB in. Marion Hampton being mocked to the Giants in some second round mocks I've seen out there. Tracy, I thought did well enough last year. I think guys like Tracy, kind of like Tyler Algier a couple of years ago, you don't want to assume the team doesn't bring another RB in because the guy had a good rookie year. Tracy, to me, was much better than I thought. He was a prospect that wasn't on my radar early on. Some guys out there, like the Underdog guys, that like him. I just didn't get there enough, and as a result, ended up kind of soft fading him throughout the year. He spiked enough here. I think he showed enough upside. He's another situation as well. The Giants have to have Singletary back next year, most likely. I was reading a lot of dead cap for kind of no reason there. So you're probably looking at a Tracy Singletary backfield to some extent. If they bring in an Marion Hampton, that's going to upset things a little bit. So you kind of want to be mindful of it, where I think Tracy at this ADP is too cheap, but also you could have somebody come in and upset things. Roshan Johnson right now, with where he's going, I think you take the shot on the upside. Can he be the David Montgomery in this Ben Johnson approach again, where you assume we're going to run the ball a good amount? We assume we're going to have, an offense that runs better overall, performs better, gets the ball into, kind of goal line situations more. I'll take that shot now, 177. Wouldn't take him in every draft, but same thing. Ambiguous coaching staff for the Jets now could mean the best for Breece Hall. Could also mean that they give more work to Braylon Allen. So taking the shots in ambiguous backfields, the new coach coming in, I think is worth it. And I do expect Aaron Glenn to be a guy that runs a good team as well. So that certainly, informs that. Marshawn Lloyd for free. Again, I'll keep doing that. Brian Thomas, Drake London, Chris Olave, Cortland Sutton. This receiver room here, I think works okay. Guys like Olave, very reactionary to this year, not accounting for the fact that a guy like Kellen Moore might come in and materially change the way the Saints look next year. I think there's values really, and it's same thing as last year, same thing as every big board I've done, both on stream in general. Anybody that failed last year is just going to be a little bit too cheap. You could obviously have reasons. You could have a feeling like Jason was talking about in the chat where he just thinks the guys are question marks, whatever. But the reality is, like, these guys are too cheap. Like Christian Kirk going 100 picks behind where he did last year doesn't make sense. Ingram going 100 picks behind where he did last year. It just doesn't make sense based on the talent. Even Kyle Pitts, who people don't like very much, he wasn't great, but he showed signs of life with Michael Penix, who's now to be your franchise QB for Atlanta. Why is he not getting drafted in the 170s? Like, you got to start to ask yourself those questions a little bit. Olave concussions, great. He's also going at pick 64. So just doesn't fucking matter. Your observations, your critiques, your concerns about stuff don't matter when the ADPs are where they are. Thoughts on Judkins versus Henderson? I wouldn't take either. I think they're both wildly overpriced. The rookie RBs in general are really overpriced. Omarion Hampton I could see because he's kind of a guy that can come in day one and hopefully get enough draft capital. Genty, day one's going to have enough draft capital to get where he needs to go. Everybody else here, I'm not sold at ADP, but we'll see it more when we do a draft. This team here, again, another hero RB team, actually bimodal RB with Bijan and Bucky. Still feel like I got this one okay for the most part. Ramondre under contract. Hopefully gets a new sign of life under Aaron Glenn. Took Cam Ward in this one. Didn't get great Giants with him, but did get Wandale and Theo Johnson with him. Again, I think that's where he goes. That was a big advantage I had in the big board last year, was getting Jaden Wright and Drake May to a lesser extent right early on. Caleb as well. That one wasn't that crazy. But like getting the rookie QBs right and where they're going to go and starting to set up some sacks with them earlier than everybody else, I think is a little bit of an edge here. But for Cam Ward, play him to Tennessee a little bit if you want. Play him to the Giants more, I think, because my gut lean is Tennessee takes Travis Hunter or they take Abdul Carter up top because they've said the word generational talent too much. And frankly, Cam Ward, not a generational talent. Good QB, not a generational talent. So that's how that looks. Anything else to extrapolate here? Harold Fannin, a tight end I like. I think he's going too cheap as well in the 160s. Really nothing else in this team to note. Really big values in the big board as well. Josh Allen, 8-pick discount. Bucky took him again here. Another bimodal RB build for me here. Had some good values in this one. Jerome Ford, a good value. There's no other backs under contract for Cleveland right now. Even though I have no issue taking Nick Chubb, I probably wouldn't do it in a Cleveland build. Receivers here, ran the run of receivers. We're going to see in a moment where there's about a shitload of receivers between 40 and 60 that if you take your RB early, you're going to kind of be picking from this pack of unending receivers. That's how that looks. So for the big board, really the main thing to me is number one, be mindful of rookie prices because these are not the screaming values. 2 years ago, you would have a team or a player like AR who was going in the 200s to open a draft. That's not the case anymore. Last year, even like your Troy Franklin's got steamed up to the 150s, kind of came up from that. Those guys aren't doing that anymore. So I think that's really the biggest thing from the big board is like the rookie stuff is not really like a true edge in the way it was in the past. My number two takeaway would be people are way too down on guys that sucked last year. You could think whatever you want about how the Jags did. New situation, new coach, a new offense, coach who really did a great job in his last stop and has the pedigree to back it up. I think those teams are the ones you take your shots on. Besides that, be prepared to take more RBs early. They're going so early now, you kind of have to get at least one guy there who gives you the upside. Taking two feels pretty comfortable even for a guy like me who has been a staunch zero RB guy. And number four, which I think is going to be a big one, I really think zero RB might be dead in terms of how it's played. I don't think there's going to be as many zero RB teams this year. The pockets for receiver, at least right now in the big board, are so shitty that you kind of don't get that same upside. So that's sort of my overall takeaway here for the big board. But we should also look at the price structure a little bit too. I think that's important. Could have actually done it on that screen. We'll do that. Well, again, Dak's another guy who was hurt in the back half of last year. People don't like Schottenheimer. So yes, I would agree. Just noticing that stuff too, in particular, if you do a lot of drafts last year, just noticing like, hey, where do these guys align in terms of like where their ADPs were last year? I think those are questions to ask yourself more. I don't know why this is scrolling so fucking slow. All right. So you can see the advance. Okay, if it doesn't stop scrolling for a second, you can see the advance here. 3 out of 12 is your advanced structure here. So a little bit softer, similar to the big board this year. 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10, 558 person final. So pretty much 1-to-1 with what we saw last year in the big board, which I have to say the payouts, like I finished number 80 overall in this gigantic tournament. Didn't feel like the money was worth it there. It was enough to certainly balance out, to make me profitable on the year and all that, but it wasn't like a big hit. So I will say that for the big board. Why is this scrolling so slow? I just want to show the fucking prize pool. It keeps moving 2 clicks too many. All right. Well, 250,000 up top. Maybe if I zoom out, it'll give me this a little bit better. All right, here we go. Like I scroll and it's 10 seconds and it moves. 250,000 up top, 100,000 to second place, 75K to third, 50K to fourth. So you got to really finish top 10 in this one ideally. If you are finishing in the top 10, you are getting that same, you're not getting 10% of first place. So it's not that soft ideal structure people look for. I think if you get to advance, it's $750. So you're getting half of your money back if you make the finals, if you max out the tournament. So I don't know that it's really advantageous to max the big board, even though it was my best performing, draft cycle last year. That's where we are at the big board. And this entire time, I'm waiting for this room to fill. So we got one spot left. My computer is behaving, or Underdog is behaving really slowly here. If you want to get in here, I really don't want to do friends and family drafts at all this year, but one spot left here for the big board just filled. So let's do this now. So things to talk about for the channel this year. Nolan got in. Nolan was waiting for me. He knew. Huron River Rat. Of course, some of the regulars have to be in here. You got one draft today, guys. So the content schedule for the year. And this is me being really candid about things because you got guys like Davis Maddock, who again I mentioned his channel's been doing a great job. I personally think I provide more of an edge in the big board. That's my personal belief. Obviously, I'm sure he feels the same way about himself. I don't want to do endless drafts for free this year. Is really how I feel about it. And this is me being candid about what Splash Play is like a channel, a business, and all that. I love doing drafts regularly. I love doing drafts every day if I can. Underdog has to compensate me to do that. That's sort of where we are at things right now. We have to figure out what my work outlay is versus things that actually pay me. So Splash Play NBA channel, I get paid from that. Doing this show in NFL DFS season, I get paid from that through the affiliate stuff I do from Stochastic, through converting, stuff, things like that. I can't strap in to do as many drafts as I did last year unless I'm being comped for it. So I'm trying to figure out with Underdog right now what that value is to them, what that value is for me. So I don't really know my schedule yet for what I'm doing this year in terms of all the draft stuff. I'm still going to hit the same pockets I did last year. I do believe in covering things. Want to keep doing drafts to some extent, but in terms of daily drafts, giving away EV, stressing myself out and all that with people being weird about getting into every stream draft, I don't want to do that this year. Like it wasn't fun for me, to be honest. The parts of last year were really not fun. People made it really uncomfortable for me. The Jeremy guy, really one of the people I like the least on the internet I've ever met in a career of working on the internet now for fucking almost 20 years. That's basically where I am right now. I don't know what my outlay is going to be. We'll keep doing this right now, but I really do believe for me as like a business person now, the channel's starting to grow and doing the stuff they need to do. And there being kind of an established rate of what a Splash Play stream costs. That's what I'm trying to figure out now. So that's why you haven't gotten big board drafts the first 2 days, besides just Luca. There was a lot of work with being dad mode nonstop. But for right now, though, I think that for me, that's where I'm viewing things. So we'll see how it goes. Of course, still have the DFS content with Super Bowl. Still have some drafts coming up here, at least a couple a week. But for doing every day, though, we're going to figure it out. So the teams right now here, drafting Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley. You can see the ADPs here. They're skipping over Bijan a little bit, skipping over Jahmyr Gibbs. Jefferson's ADP is starting to move a little bit. He was, I think, open at 5.6 on the Sunday drafts. Now he's at 4.9. So people evaluating him as a more valuable play initially. But that's that. And yes, please stay out of my drafts. That's the hope. Bijan, Saquon here. Again, nothing that crazy here. Just kind of a flipped order a little bit. And we'll see what these boys do. We'll try to build some good teams. Hard for me to pass up Jahmyr Gibbs at 4. Again, getting the RB stuff out of the way right away. I haven't got any Nico shares so far. I'm not sure that I want to steam him up to get there. Round 2 at receiver is going to be a little bit tough. Gibbs, do I really want to do here? You know what? It's the first Splash Play draft of the year. I'm going to get a guy that I like, who I think we have a free agent Nico in Stephon Diggs. We have an injured Tank Dell. I'll take Nico at pick 6 here. One of the very few receivers this year who was good pretty much every week. Showed the upside. We'll take that shot here. You drafts randomly, not live, release them after. It's not really what Splash Play is, unfortunately. Splash Play, the live chat's a big part of the show, which I don't want to do, but don't want to change too much. Again, it also comes down to what's the value for things? Because candidly, YouTube revenue for doing drafts every day, it just doesn't matter that much. So we'll see. We'll see. I have a call with these guys later today. We'll figure it out. Nico Collins right now here. You could talk me into taking, frankly, you talk me into taking Brian Thomas there. Would prefer to get Malik Neighbors at the 1-2 turn. I'd feel good about that. But really overall in the spot, I would say that any of these receivers, I feel pretty okay taking in the middle of that first round. I would say too, if I were drafting repeatedly in this 6-7 area, I would take Brian Thomas some. I would take Lamb some. I would take Amon-Ra some, Neighbors. These are really all your elite receivers in this first round. And I think there is a bit of a fall off here heading in round 2. Of course, Adam's in the chat, so no disrespect to our guy, Lad McConkey, or his guy, really not our guy. But Lad McConkey, I thought showed enough for me last year to take some shots. Really don't love the 1-2 kind of turn price tag for Lad. I want aggressive touchdown equity. I want some amount of assurances that these guys aren't going to have a better receiver come in, or, a different receiver, let's say for the case of Lad, come in and take meaningful targets away. It was one thing to compete with Quentin Johnson last year. And I guess if even Adam is saying Lad's expensive AF, it's one thing to compete with Quentin Johnson last year. It's another thing to compete with Ted McMillan this year. And even if Ted McMillan's not great, he's still probably better as a target earner than Quentin Johnson is. Those are the guys I worry about a little bit, but you're guaranteed guys here. Puka Nacua with Cooper Kupp status hanging in the air feels pretty good. Jefferson, Your hope is that McCarthy's a little better at just kind of feeding Jefferson straight away. I'm not sold that Sam Darnold comes back to the team, even on a reduced deal, even with him kind of fucking himself up a little bit in the playoffs, / the end of the regular season. I think he still gets paid enough by someone that doesn't come back on a sweetheart deal for Minnesota. Your hope for Jefferson, I think, is that you get McCarthy being a more force-feeding targets guy to him. But frankly, out of all the first-round picks at receiver, like in particular, I think Jefferson kind of comes with the most situational risk, not the most talent risk. He's obviously the most talented receiver in football, even though things have not looked as good fantasy-wise. But like you have Addison there, who's basically, more of a Devontae Smith and AJ Brown situation for him. You have Hawkinson, who came on pretty strong when he got healthy, was able to go out there. But that was a Darnold offense. So, what do you get there? McConkey goes 18, AJ Brown up to 17. So the early discount on him seems to have evaporated. Brock Bowers at the spot feels pretty good. We're going to have a lot of RB pockets. Ashton Genty, somebody reached for, so that would be one pick I would take. That's not here. We'll go Brock Bowers. Definitely some concerns with Brock Bowers, I would say. Pete Carroll coming in, who has never used tight ends well in his offense. He certainly should be a priority to go out of his way to get targets to figure out to make into a player that can be a focal point of this Raiders offense. I am not sold that Pete Carroll's the guy to do that. I'm not sold that Pete Carroll talking to Darrell Bevel is the thing that's going to solve the situation either. So for Bowers, I'm going to vocalize some concerns early on. I don't think it's like they split reps a ton here and you get your Colby Parkinson equivalents, your Will Dissly equivalents rotating in. But I don't know that it's like a guaranteed spot that he ends up being a well-fed, highly targeted tight end at the same level. But he was so good as a rookie. Like, I'll take my shots here, but I don't think Brock Bowers, to me, at that mid-second round ADP is going to be like a big pro stand this year in favor of. Bucky Irving going to 23. You do take some situational risk. I will say for Todd Bowles, for the concerns about the Bucs offense, he's now made 2 good hires as his OC. Obviously, the Byron Leftwich experiment didn't go well. He basically is trying to get back in the league now desperately. Got some head coaching interviews / coordinator interviews for, I think, honestly, for Rooney Report stuff or Rooney, stuff overall, Rooney Rule stuff rather. But he wasn't very good. Then since then, he's hired guys that are coming from good pedigree, good coaching staff, showed something with their offenses. Now he's talking to a lot of the young Minnesota QB coach guy, Grant, whatever his name is, talking to him, talking to a couple of Rams guys, like talking to guys from good coaching trees. I think the Bucs figure it out again, no matter what. Without Bucky played last year, I think he's going to be your lead back for the Bucs. He basically put up 1,500 combined yards, which I don't think got talked about enough. He and Jahmyr Gibbs, a fun, undersized RB duo, 2 guys with a lot of juice. I think to take those guys early on in a draft. So I am in on Bucky, even though the price tag is jarring to see. Chase Brown, I'm a little bit less into. He really lost efficiency as that volume went up. The fact that he got the volume at all, he got that volume at Illinois as well, was the same thing there, which I talked about years ago with Chase Brown. He wasn't a guy built to handle 25 plus touches a game. For Chase Brown this year, he played so well last year. He was basically your best fantasy back for at least the majority of the time period when he took over as starter. But I think they bring somebody else in. I think they bring in a power back in particular. And there's a lot of them in this class. A Caleb Johnson type would be one. Almarian Hampton, if he comes in, he's a threat to take more of the workload from Chase Brown. I don't think Bucky gets displaced. I think there's a good shot Chase Brown gets displaced, at least from this price tag. So Chase Brown is one to me where I'm not going to fade him, I don't think. But at 24, I don't love that price tag. I think it comes with a lot more risk than it might seem. I'm at this spot here. So we could take our first RB, keep trying to build balanced. Breece Hall getting an uptick in opportunity here with a new coaching staff. A new situation would be good. We could set up McLaurin here and Jaden perhaps. Doing Trey McBride doesn't seem smart. I'm going to do McLaurin here. I haven't gotten a share. It's a little bit of a discount. And Breece Hall, I think, could come down a little bit throughout the offseason with Braylon Allen being there and just how the coaching staff talks about stuff. So we'll see if we get a shot to push Jaden around here. I'm not sold we'll get it, but if not, we got another receiver here. Nico, Terry McLaurin start. Washington's another team. They're absolutely going to draft a receiver. Faint shot to sign one in free agency. I know the T. Higgins rumors have been there. So a lot of the local beat guys for Washington have been kind of pushing at the idea of please don't sign anybody here. Let this team grow. And they've all kind of been talking the same narrative for it. Makes me think that the team is talking to the beat guys about that a little bit, about maybe not going crazy in free agency at wide receiver, attacking other spots, and then trying to get another young guy to build alongside Jaden to develop and all that. I think that's the way they go. So a younger guy displacing Terry McLaurin is less likely. If you bring in a Tet McMillan, you bring in and Egbuka out of the slot, which I think could make sense. Those guys certainly are going to get some Jaden workload. They're not going to unseat Terry McLaurin as the outside deep target, getting downfield and all that. So I still like McLaurin. I just think he, kind of like Michael Pittman last year, a little bit overpriced for the results that he got. Still a good enough player, but I'm not like crazy about him going right next to Mike Evans, next to JSN. That's how that looks. I'll talk about Bucky last year, 1,500 yards at 45% of the snaps. That is also true. Chase Brown's an avoid. Adam's just getting all sakes out. Chase Brown, an avoid for me. I don't think he's an avoid, but I really do think his ADP will be different. And that's one thing, too, with the big board. Like, you could be really like, this guy is really overpriced where he is right now. If you want exposure to that guy in the big board, you just got to take him. The guys certainly can move around, in particular guys who are threats because of somebody else coming in, taking some sort of roll away with a free agent. Chase Brown, I'd worry about a free agent. I'd worry about a draft pick. Those are both in play. But really at this point of a draft, like if you want Chase Brown, you want to have that exposure, you just got to take him where he is. Because you're probably not going to get that free agency hammer for, a while. But we got a lot of picks going here. Again, we'll see what we got on the way back. 5 more picks before we come up. And guys, if you appreciate this content, if you appreciate, again, me just being real with you about what the content outlook is right now, what the business side of Splash Play is, show some love, subscribe down below with the like button, leave a comment. Of course, still doing NFL DFS content throughout the year. My rookie previews are on the channel as well, where I go through all the data, give you guys takes on everything based upon the formula that's worked well for me for the last 3-4 years, I guess, on stream and in general doing content for this stuff. That's what I provide here. Again, not a lot of people watch the rookie previews, and I do think probably the biggest edge I provide all year because people just don't know how to wrap their heads around rookies. That's that. Dom's going to be a decent fit in Cincinnati. Sure. That would be one that would certainly make sense. Don't think he'll get more expensive. I'll take when Zeke signs. I would really doubt that Cincinnati would bring in a Zeke. I expect DJ Moore to move up. I'm not sold they don't bring back Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen was Caleb's best target last year by like a wide margin. So, it's certainly possible. I think DJ Moore is priced right now for its, and Odunze too. They're both priced for it to be a DJ Moore Odunze. That's a bad pick. Rashee Rice is going to be out most of next year. Huron Riverhead, I think, is in the chat. I would not reach for Rashee Rice right now. We got Jaden Daniels here with our Terry McLaurin stack. We're going to do it. Shout out our guy Dave, who did buy me the jersey here as a thanks for him finishing well in the basketball tournament. We're strapped in again, even though last year was really the year of drafting Jaden at his ADP being very reasonable and greatly underpriced. Jaden's appropriately priced this year, but we are commies mode. I don't care if they lost in the conference title game by 30. That wasn't Jaden's fault. So we got our Jaden Daniels team here. We got a Jaden, Nico, Brock Bowers, Terry McLaurin start. We are being little zero RB bitches one more time here, but that's fine. Got no issue with that. Jersey looks clean as fuck. That's because I didn't wear it all season. That's what it wasn't me putting it on over and over again. A sweaty summer, like it was for the AR jersey. Keenan in the Amon-Ra role, yes, it's a decent possibility. It's not a guarantee, but like Keenan's going for free in the 100s, whether he goes back to Chicago and gets a Keenan Allen slot role, or he goes somewhere else and he's like the last piece for a championship aspiring team. Keenan Allen is going to land in a good spot. Old guys get undervalued in the big board by way too much. And I'm not Mr. Old Guy, as you guys know here, but like old guys get way undervalued. About 10 drafts in, never seen Jaden go that far. I have seen him go that far already, so I appreciate it. Yeah, it's not a bad spot. Jaden time, nice. There we go. Miss round 7 and round 8, Ladden Bowers. Yeah, it's not going to be the case. That's the toughest part, I think, of doing these drafts year after year, where it's like last year, it's like, oh, these guys were so cheap, they're so good. And even guys who like weren't good last year, like Xavier Leggett, who I think is due to be better this year. I thought he graded out to me like an AJ Brown facsimile, copy of a copy for sure, but still had similar traits coming out last year. In year 2, like you can make that leap. And that's another takeaway too from last year in particular, where I threw a lot of guys out with the bathwater after a shitty rookie year. Quentin Johnson being one of them. Zach Charbonnet being one who I loved his rookie year, but he didn't win the backfield. And then the new coaching staff seemed to favor Kenneth Walker, and I just didn't go Charbonnet's way. I do want to be more mindful of that this year, where unfortunately, your Audric Estimé, who I thought looked good last year, he didn't really hit. Got close, but didn't get there. I think he's worth a shot again. Marshawn Lloyd, I know you guys don't want to hear it. He's free in these drafts. He's worth a shot again. And who else would classify as an underperformer? I didn't like Roman Wilson, but like Roman Wilson types technically would count. Troy Franklin, absolutely a guy who could take a leap, even though Cortland Sutton, no shot of getting cut there, so you're not going to get the big upside. But he still looks good to me. Like, just remembering the guys who you thought were good as rookies, they're not dead. They just didn't get going in year 1. A little bit of a difference there. Yeah, Kamani Vidal's another one as well. I'm not a big Vidal guy, but like Dobbins is a free agent. They could certainly draft a million different dudes who are better than Vidal, but that's sort of the main thing I'd say to try to keep in mind here a little bit more. And we are now amidst this run of receivers that's pretty tough. I do like Tet McMillan. Don't mind Devontae. Do think he goes back to the Jets. The people are down on Rodgers going back. I would have thought that's like the first thing they do is they try to get the most out of Rodgers one more time. Marion Hampton, a rookie I like a lot, a little bit overpriced. Alvin Kamara, not a free agent, coming back possibly to a Kellen Moore environment. Oh, this is tough. I'm going to take Tet. The ADPs may change, but the drafter does not. I think Kamara's the one guy here who should bump up a little bit into this range. But yeah, the longer it goes on, the longer suspensions are less likely for happening. It could happen. You don't know though. But yes, it still doesn't matter though. Like you're taking him now in the hopes that he's good. What, he misses like 2 games at the beginning of the year. So what? If you want to knock his ADP down, you can, but that shouldn't affect you taking a guy, especially as your wide receiver. For me, in this case, 3. Hey, the team so far: Nico, Bowers, McLaurin, Jaden, McMillan. I am one of a couple 0 RB teams here. This guy's doing it. It's not pure receiver 0 RB, but that's it. Is it it's possible for you to do it? I don't. I don't care. It was a team. It was like a Higgins team. I don't know. No, it's not going to inform you of anything, but you can do it on your own time. I'm not going to do it on stream. Appreciate you asking. especially Mr. Popinski, you're not a paying member currently. No disrespect, but like I'll go above and beyond if you're a paying member active, but otherwise, no. Sorry. Just do it on your own. Other teams here to note. This guy's sticking with 0 RB as well. We'll see who breaks 0 RB first. Because like we are now in a pocket that's going to be a little more RB heavy. Again, Alvin Kamara is the one guy where you're going to get Kendra Miller in. They did seem, now that Dennis Allen's gone, they did seem to want to pull Alvin Kamara in a bit more. I would say that for Kamara, he's a player that I think is undervalued relative to what he did last year. Obviously, he fell apart down the home stretch, but that wasn't his fault. The team fell apart. Again, like New Orleans is one of those teams where if you bring in Kellen Moore as that coach, every indication seems to be that's going to be the case. He's going to change the outlook of this offense materially. He is one of the best coordinators in football. Even though Philly was like weird this year, you got to remember that they were weird. Jalen Hurts complained about it. A.J. Brown complained, whatever. They won so many games, produced so many fantasy points. And now you get a shot here of Olave in the 60s. Don't care about his concussions, all that. I don't know. I think the New Orleans and Jacksonville, 2 teams, people are just not accounting for what a good coach does. Good coaches change the entire outlook of a team. Currently, I'm bigger concerned with Addison, but I've been drafting both the cost, faith, and KOC. KOC makes any QB good and still a round 1 prospect. JJ McCarthy had really great analytics in college. I mean, for a Michigan offense that wasn't very good, I would certainly say that he did a lot for that team. Like, obviously, they were a good enough team. But, like, they weren't an exciting team. They weren't a team that I feel like had a lot of upside in terms of the offense when he was, helming it. They were still a team that produced really well for him in terms of EPA numbers, aggressive downfield shots, all that. He found ways to get the most out of a situation where the QB is kind of inhibited more so. So that's what I would say. All right. What are we going to do with this pick? Now Mr. Popinski's back, remember. I shamed you. That's the goal here. Well, now do I have to pull up the winning team from last year? We're on the clock here. We got Debo, Caleb Johnson, Pacheco, Shakir, Travion. I do not love this pocket at RB. Pacheco just looks like dust, but he has been hurt all year. Kind of feel like we're seeing his draft capital now come to life. Caleb Johnson, I think, is okay. I don't think he's worth this ADP. Oof. I'm going to go Pacheco if that counted. Nope, it's Caleb. Oof, I don't like that spot. I think these guys are all really overpriced. Travion Henderson, I will say, very fast. That's how that looks. He's a backup right now. He's not a backup guaranteed going into next year because Hunt's not under contract, and Hunt's also even more dust. Anyway, for Mr. Popinski, who did join just to get this, I presume, we will show him the big board winner from last year because I was in the finals, so I can show that. It's under results. Pre-draft best ball, week 17. All right, so this is what it was. You can see my 3 finalists last year. I don't know if I could see everything here. This is your winner. Jalen Hurts, Ray Davis. Wow. All right. Marshawn Lloyd. Shitty RB room, or, like really low capital ADP room. Marshawn, Damian Pierce, Bucky Irving, Jerome Ford, Roshan Johnson, Jonathan Taylor. At receiver, he missed on Jacob Cowing, got Ricky Pearsall, got lucky on that. Pop Douglas, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, JSN, Neighbors, AJ Brown. So the Higgins guy didn't end up winning. Bowers, McBride, 2 elite tight ends, or guys that worked out to be elite tight ends. So we got good tight end value. Really not a great wide receiver room. Got kind of lucky on guys. I would say there. Obviously, Brian Thomas was one that wasn't lucky. I really don't think I don't think there's anything to take away from it is the other thing. All right, so good. Well, you got to see it anyway. That's the other part of it. I don't think there's anything to take away from it. Like, it's just a team. And I think that's really how I felt about a lot of the best ball winners last year. Again, no disrespect to anybody who did finish well. A lot of teams that won last year were kind of just a team. Week 17 correlation come in just as much. There was a lot of things to survive in terms of stuff that ended up you needed to have right to carry your team through that I think made things weird. So I don't know. I don't think looking at one team is ever going to be the best try to read at what to do this year, personally. And you can see, too, that guy got a few rookies right, got a few wildly wrong. That's honestly how my portfolio looked as well. So I think for the big board, I think the big board's a little more forgiving overall is really how I feel about it, especially if you draft credible players and guys who are like either going to have high draft capital, come in with a good shot at having a role from week 1, or just vets who are underpriced because people are like, rookies, I want to draft new names. It's really, as much as I love drafting new names too, that's that. All right, pick coming up here. I'm not talking to Mr. Propinski. I'm talking kind of in general for everybody, because that's really how people think. It's like, what won last year? Oh, that's what won? Great. And that's not going to be it. We need more RBs here. Quinshon Judkins, pretty good little run for himself in the playoff. Calvin Ridley can make us a little bit stronger at receiver, and I don't know, we're missing out a lot at RB right now. I'm going to go Calvin Ridley. You can see Tyrone Trace's ADP is coming up too as well. Again, same situation I think you're getting. We talked about with Algier, where guy who played well last year, assumption they don't bring in somebody else. Decent shot they do bring in somebody else despite that. There you go. Terrence agreeing with me here. Last year was tough because RBs mostly stayed healthy and hit or exceeded expectations. That's also true. Am I starting a new thing? That's Honest Jet. Incredible. Just a team. What? I mean, if you're talking to me here. Let's see. New haystack, new needles to find. That's also true. All right, so let's see what we got these picks coming up here. Need to hit RB hard. I think we're going to come into a decent RB pocket coming up. Still would like to stick with the approach here of the 4 receivers through 7. I would say ideally 5 still. You still want to get good receivers, even though you can skim a little bit more here. I think post 100, still credible guys. I've talked about, I think Keenan Allen's still credible. I think Christian Kirk for much cheaper, still credible. You have your Leggett types. You have your Troy Franklin types as well. You can build a full receiver room with more guys later on. You still want to have a baseline of good performers here because enough receivers are going early, even with how things went last year. Don't want to get totally boxed out. Why is Hollywood Brown a steal right now? What has Hollywood Brown done this year to make you think that he's a steal? Would be the question I would ask. Because he hasn't done anything. He's been targeted fairly well and done not a lot with it. Worthy has absolutely passed him in every aspect of football. Hollywood Brown is showing exactly what my concern was for him. With him missing the beginning part of the year, he really wasn't that good at Arizona. And this year was also not that great. Here in targets at a good rate for the 2 weeks he played in the regular season. I don't think that's a guarantee that it carries on moving forward. He's probably too cheap for sure relative to ADPs. Like Hollywood Brown is where 172 is too cheap, but like, I don't think he's a steal. I think he's a player that people have been wrong about for a couple of years now. I took him last year because he got too cheap at a certain point where he was going in the 50s, 60s the entire year, and then he dropped because of the shoulder injury. Unfortunately, shoulder injury took him out the entire year. But if you're being price sensitive, I get it for Hollywood. KC could do anything at receiver, and it wouldn't shock me. And I don't think Hollywood did enough to earn a role. Worthy's done enough to earn a role. Where's Worthy go? He was 3rd round, right? Pick 41. That price I'll pay. You could talk me into paying Worthy's price tag where Ladd McConkey goes. I think those would be similar prospects other than your fear of the Chiefs upsetting things. If he's an FA, I'd worry even more. I don't think I don't think he gets that good of a contract. Personally. All right, so we got to get more RBs in here. Again, free agents, I think, get greatly undervalued because you got to remember free agent vets get some of the best roles out there unless they're not good anymore. Aaron Jones was good, so I'll take Aaron Jones here at pick 91. A little bit after ADP, we need some RBs in. Caleb Johnson will hopefully get draft capital, get a shot to play, but frankly, I'm not as sold on Caleb Johnson as I am Omarion Hampton, as I am certainly Ashton Genty, who's going way higher. Aaron Jones gives us more of a floor, all that. Oops, why am I hitting info? Really? Why is Underdog like so sluggish? I clicked that. I don't know why it fucking loads so slow. Najee is another free agent that probably, well, I don't know. See, if the Steelers eval on him is not that good, I'd worry a little bit more about him than I would Aaron Jones. What's my galaxy brain about what Washington does to elevate the offense around Jaden? I feel like Hollywood or Chris Scott. I don't think they'd take a free agent like that. Again, I said it before. The beat reporters have been talking a lot about getting there through the draft. If I had to guess, they're more of a team that takes who's a good target earner and a rookie. I should pull up my data here on a sheet. Hold on. I think they would be live. I mean, I think they'd be live for an Igbuka type who's a fast guy, can get downfield. Jalen Royals would be a really fun one for Washington. Good target earner, really fast guy, probably one of the fastest guys in the class. Travis Hunter would make a lot of sense for Washington. They won't be able to afford him in terms of where he's getting drafted, most likely. If they traded up and got him, I think that'd be fun. You solve your cornerback issues, get a guy who could be a good receiver and should play more receiver than some teams are thinking about for him. He's probably one of the best receiver prospects in the class. I would love to see Trey Harris go there, though he's not a burner. He's an elite route runner, kind of I would say a Noah Brown type, Trey Harris. But I think they do it with rookies. I don't think it's FAs. I would think they probably sign one free agent, but I don't know. It's like they're going to pay for T. Higgins. I don't think it's likely. I think they go the rookie route, would be my guess, based on everything I've read. What's the wide receiver unit in SF next year, in my opinion? Ayuk. They said they don't want to trade Debo, but everything does seem to scream trading Debo. Ayuk, Jennings, Pearsall would be my guess, but there's a shot they run it back. The season was so cursed. That's that. Tez Johnson would be a fun one. He's apparently not looking great in the Senior Bowl so far, but I do like him. Generally, he's a fast player. Travis Hunter at pick 100 is a risky pick. Depends where he goes. Some teams don't want to play Travis Hunter at receiver at all. Some teams want to play him a little bit, occasional like kind of third down snaps. Some teams might play him a lot on both sides, but there's no guarantee right now for any of those. We need more RBs in. Charbonnet did play well this year. Keon Coleman, I've been taking more. I like Trey Harris, but I think he's a little bit overpriced. I'm going to go Charbonnet. Just got to get some RB volume in. And Charbonnet, for what it's worth, acquitted himself well. A new OC coming in for Seattle. So that's something where you could definitely win over a new backfield potentially. It's Clint Kubiak too, which I just need to remind myself of. Clint Kubiak does want to run the ball pretty aggressively. So Charbonnet, no guarantee he gets the full workload. But that's that. Tez weighed 156. So yeah, we're talking worthy size for him. One QB, who I don't think is going to matter for the big board, but I will talk about, because I didn't mention him at all my QB rookie stuff because he wasn't on any mock drafts out there. Dylan Gabriel apparently set the fastest throw ever at the Senior Bowl for a QB, a record there by like 20 miles. He's really small, but his EPA numbers look good. He kind of looked to me like a shittier version of Bo Nix and a similar, obviously, offense at Oregon. I think Dylan Gabriel, maybe not a bad pick overall in terms of getting draft capital. I don't think he's a starter, though, because he's kind of small. Still would think that you want your Jackson Dart the most, out of the guys that aren't the main guys, outside of Shador and Cam Ward. Jackson Dart, also Hayden Winks, has been steaming up a lot on social media. Apparently, Jackson Dart hasn't looked great at the Senior Bowl so far, but I still love Jackson Dart the most. It's like my dark horse QB, but Ward, Shador are going to be your two guaranteed first-round picks, I would think. I don't know enough about Gabriel besides the fact that he was like committed to UCLA. attended 3 different colleges, including Oregon, and now he's going to be in the draft. Checking chats. Nothing that important right now. All right, so let me read the team here, but not doing a great job of that. Got to get back into draft streaming form here. We got Jaden Daniels, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet. So we're getting legit guys at RB in addition to our whimsical rookie that's probably way too highly drafted. Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, who I do expect to benefit from whatever Tennessee does at QB this offseason, whether it be taking Shador. They're a team that I think is very live for Jackson Dart in the beginning of the second round. Also live for Jalen Milroe potentially at the beginning of the second round, which I think would just be a more athletic version of the Will Levis experiment. But I think Tennessee is going to try to improve things for Ridley, and that's the hope. And for Ridley as well, he was going around this price tag last year with Hopkins there, and now there's nobody there. So I still feel okay about Ridley at this price tag. Gabriel going to break some hands. I mean, hopefully he's not throwing 75 miles per hour that often, which seems stupid. It does seem like a glitch, but I think people fact-checked it, and so whatever. He's got the main thing was that it made me look up his numbers, and I was like, yeah, Dylan Gabriel, not that bad. So I would say for Dylan Gabriel, he graded out well to me, but he's short and he's older too. So 2 strikes against him for sure. All right. We got this 1-3-4-1 build. Need more credible RBs. DeAndre Swift could get the other shot with Chicago, be undervalued as a result. Tyjae Spears, I've been taking some Tony Pollard. Tyjae certainly could take that workload again in year 2. You know what? Let's go Swift here. Let's go Swift because I have a concept we're going to try to pull off. So we got Jaden Daniels at QB, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift, who is hard to get rid of for Chicago this year with his contract. So think Swift gets a shot year 1, would still think Roshan, somebody else coming in as a rookie, somebody coming in as a free agent can upset things because we did see Detroit fell out of love with DeAndre Swift while Ben Johnson was there. But I'll take Swift at this point, and we'll see what we get on the way back. So 1-4-4-1 build here. We did not get to 5 receivers through 100 picks, which is something I have to be a little more willing to do this year, I think, with ADPs being where they are. All-time record is 62, and the 5'11 guy breaks by 13 miles per hour. Somebody would call bullshit on it, though, if it weren't true. So, I don't know what to tell you. Especially this year, there's like a lot of senior goal fuckers going around there. Shut up, Nolan. What are we doing here? Well, yeah, no, taking a bet on 2 Chicago guys wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, I don't think. Cam Scattaboo at 117. Really have a hard time with that one. Cam Scattaboo is not an athlete at all. Produced really well in college. I think in previous big boards, Cam Scattaboo goes like where Dylan Labe did. You're talking 18th through 20th round. I do not see Cam Scattaboo being worth pick 117. This guy just wants to take rookies. He took Egbuka, took Travis Hunter really early, took Scattaboo early. Some people in these drafts just want to take rookies no matter what, and that's not necessarily the way to play this. But 2 more picks here. See what the Scattaboo guy does. Malik Washington at 124. He had an okay year. Miami's not changing anything. They're not getting rid of Tyreek. Waddle's under contract. We got Keenan Allen coming back. We're going to take that here. Keenan Allen. So a 1-4-5-1. We got Jaden Daniels, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift, Nico McLaurin, Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, and Brock Bowers. So very projectable team, which is sort of the goal of the big board more so. You want projectable teams that also can get higher upside if the rookies hit the way you want. It's sort of how I view this situation and what I think I got right about my portfolio last year. So that's that. It's really my big lesson from the big board. 2 years ago, I crushed with rookie takes, got so much shit right, and still did not get the payout I thought because I just didn't value vets enough, didn't value stacking enough and correlation enough. This year, I mean, last year I did it more. This year, you have to be more didactic about it. People think because it's the big board, you can play fast and loose. in reality, when you don't play fast and loose and still draft structure, so you can't do week 17 correlation, whatever, but drafting stacks, drafting mini stacks of teams that you're not getting the QB with, really important part of the big board that I think single-handedly is what led to my success last year. Anyway, this guy in the 11 hole is taking CJ Stroud for no reason. I guess he thinks Diggs is coming back to Houston, which he can, but no guarantee with Diggs coming back there. Remember, they did renegotiate his contract, so he does get out this year. If I'm Houston, I'm not probably going to pay Diggs big money with what I saw last year and him coming off an ACL. I don't know about that. Bond will certainly come up after he runs a high 40 at the combine. He's still not incredibly talented, but I would agree. Christian Kirk going 132 here. Good pick for that guy, even though he is reaching for Kirk. All right. Solid team so far. Time to land the plane. Yeah, we'll see. We got to get that second QB. I thought we had a good shot at getting Stroud back, but guy in the 11 hole really needed him stacked up with the players not going to be on the Texans most likely. So we'll figure it out. I think a new filter on my fridge. I think the water's starting to taste weird. We've had our fridge for a year, which I guess is about the time where that would be the case. Not enjoying the water today. That's how I feel about the water I'm currently drinking. Any opinion on Savion late? He's big. He did not produce very well. Talked about it. Again, really would encourage you guys who are going to ask this question, not for I am the KY specifically, but like if you want to know how I felt about everything, I talked about it a lot of depth in the rookie previews. He got outperformed by Jack Best on the same team, who's like an unathletic white guy receiver who kind of just got in good spots. That didn't impress me too much. That said, Savion, big-bodied guy, he got targets well, so like I think he's an okay guy, and people expect him to get draft capital. But with how he played, I don't expect him to be good right away. That's basically it. I don't think it's boiling water. I think it's just that the filter is like a little bit dirty, I guess. But yeah, I'm not having tasty times right now with this water. All right, we got a 1-4-5-1 here. We got sniped at QB, as is always going to be the case in pretty much every draft. I do like Trevor Lawrence here. Do like Bryce Young here. Shot, I guess we get Bryce Young with Ted McMillan being paired. It's a tough choice. I've been taking a lot of these two guys as well. I don't see any other out. I am going to go Bryce here because I think we have more flexibility with late guys. Thought about taking Trevor Lawrence to get Ingram on the way back, but I don't know if we're going to get him on the way back. Team so far is a 2-4-5-1. Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift is the team right now. Wide receiver, we got Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Ted McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, and Brock Bowers at tight end. So I feel pretty good about this team. I think there's some fairly obvious late plays to go to here to complete stacks. So we'll see what we do with those. Not a name I've heard once. So not good would be my first inkling. And for the most part, for me, whenever people in the chat ask for guys, they are very infrequently actually players that matter. No respect to AZ here. Yeah, I have a prospect list of 24 guys based on all the sources out there, and he's not on them. So probably not. Let's see, Yarns. I don't have data for this guy. Are you giving me fake names? He seems to exist. Yeah, what's a Delaware? I don't think UDEL data because we're talking about going down to conference, right? Sports Info Solutions doesn't track shitty colleges, which we saw last year for Dylan Lave, where they only had one game from in New Hampshire. So not a pick for me based on the data that I don't have on him. And I don't think he'll get drafted, would be my thought. So sometimes people ask about players and it's like, I saw him in a game once and he's okay. I don't know. It was 40 time. Is he really fast? If he's incredibly fast, maybe he can hit a draft board somewhere. 4.5 40. Seems like. He definitely loves to hump and pump in the end zone. Those are different Key and Peele skits, but yes. Hingle McCringleberry here, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of thoughts there. I will say Cole Kmet, I think, is interesting. Cole Kmet, under contract for Chicago. Hard to get out of there without taking a lot of dead cap. Tight end's been used well by Ben Johnson in the past. Obviously not so much this year, but still, it's in the mix. Quentin Johnson going to the 150s here. This guy's finally stopped taking rookies. Good for him. All right, what do we do this next spot? Still need more RBs. Still need more receivers. Jalen Coker, people love to take Coker. I am not sold on Coker either. All right. Would have been nice to get him in a stack, but I am not sold on Coker. Rashad White. I just don't think he goes anywhere good. This is a bad spot in the draft here. A lot of contingent value for Tyler Algier, which I think is what I'm going to lean on here. So Dylan Sampson, the issue with him, he's going to be really fast. I did watch his film after somebody highlighted him last time out, and he wasn't in my initial prospect list. I would say that Algier I would take over Sampson because he at least has a role for an Atlanta team. And if you get a Bijan injury, you're now getting leverage on the number 3 overall pick. So I'll take Algier there. Sampson just ran plays where it's like 4 receivers out wide, 4 guys in the box, like just bullshit. Sampson's fast, so he might get draft capital like Jalen Wright did. I don't think he's going to be ready for year 1, much like Jalen Wright wasn't. So I really think the Sampson, Woody Marks too, who was okay at USC, but like I don't think is like really a dude. Look at Woody Marks' numbers. Yeah, Woody Marks, 12% avoided tackle rate in college, which is not going to look better in the pros. Did get good volume, 21 opportunities a game. Versus an 8-man box, he was okay with a 0.29 EPA. I'd like these are 2 guys here. The other one is at tight end, Luke Lachey. I just don't think they should be anywhere near their ADPs. Like they're just rookie guys getting priced up for no reason, and I don't agree with it very much. Let's give this team a read. 2551, Jaden, Bryce Young, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift, Tyler Algier. And I will caveat this because you saw me take Caleb Johnson. He's a rookie. Please don't misread that thinking I think he's one of the best rookies in the class. He's not. I think that Omarion Hampton is much higher. I think that Genty's much higher. I think you could take shots on Travion and his speed equally. But I think Caleb Johnson looks okay. He wasn't a bad runner by any stretch. Not very shifty, big-bodied, kind of power back guy is how I'd read it. But yeah, just rookies are really too frothy is really the main thing. And I know people are going to infer things if they come into the draft late. You like Loveland? I don't mind him. Good target earner, but he really didn't do as much of that as I would have hoped for. And Michigan was an albatross of an offense last year. In or out on Pitts at ADP? I think he's worth the ADP, yeah. He's too cheap for how he played better with Penix, and he's still going to be a guy they're committed to trying to saving one more year. So I think Pitts is fine. Too cheap because he wasn't good last year. This range of tight end really, I think, can field you a good 3 tight end team with Pitts, Otten, Kmet, you see going here. Loveland, to a lesser extent. Ingram, I like. Likely, a little bit less so. Mark Andrews is going to be back on the Ravens next year, barring something weird happening. All right, we got a 2551 here. We need more receivers. Jalen Royals, I adore. Jalen Royals is probably relative to ADP, my favorite rookie receiver right now. Was a demon at Utah State. Granted, was at Utah State, but he's legit fast. He earned targets. He avoided tackles. He did everything, plus EPA receiver at every level. Jalen Royals is what, Savion Williams going ahead of Jalen Royals, I think is insane. Personally, I think it's insane. Royals, a little bit small, more that, like a little bit bigger than Worthy, but in that size range. But he's going to clock really fast. Savion, big-bodied guy who should test well athletically, but is not very good, at least in how he played in college. I'd rather get Royals over him 100%. Lead tight end is hard to get this year, it seems. Sure. 20-round drafts are brutal when they're auto drafters. Also true. Jalen Royals passes the cool name test. He does. He's got a cool name. Seems like a legit athlete name. Seems like he also could be a basketball player name. Like, oh, Jalen Royals, the point guard from Orlando, is really playing well in garbage time. But yeah, I like Jalen Royals, man. Freak athlete, good film. Him at 160, I'll take that shot. I think no matter what, he gets some gimmicky touches, but I think there's a good chance he goes mid-second, early second, faint shot of going first. To me, he's like the more legit player version of Isaiah Bond, who's just, did nothing in college, but is really fast. I think Royals is a really strong pick. Really quick off the line. But, playing Utah State competition, so a little bit easier there. Still recovering from 27% Marshawn Lloyd. Good news. You get it much cheaper this year. I think it's worth the same exposure for Marshawn, but get it for free. But not really, though. I wouldn't go 30% Marshawn this year. But certainly as a last pick in a big board draft round 20, he is too undervalued because he got hurt last year and had one of the most unlucky runouts. Even though people saw Green Bay backup backs do a lot, you can have another year of Jacobs, another year of Miles on the tires. I think Marshawn Lloyd, and now Lloyd's had a year to be in the system and hopefully learn some stuff. And I don't think they fell in love with Marshawn Lloyd. They just realized that he just couldn't be healthy this year. Better to save him. So I would go Marshawn. Bottom Mark Davis 101. I mean, Al Davis 101 for sure. Mark Davis doesn't care about speed as much as his dear old dad. We've got this 2-5-6-1 build going here. See one obvious pick, theoretically. Not a sexy pick. This guy just won BBM. He still continues to do it. Got hot at the end of the year, which doesn't happen for older players. Adam Thielen, when we have a Bryce Young build, I'm not going to fade it as wide receiver 7. So Adam Thielen here in a 2-5-7-1 build. Worst case, he gives me some early season production to choose from a little bit. Best case, he just does the same shit he did last year. So Thielen at this point, I think is the pick. We have a 2-5-7-1 build here with Jaden Daniels and Bryce Young. Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift, Tyler Algier. At receiver, we have Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, getting some Chicago mini stacking here. Jalen Royals, Adam Thielen is part of our Carolina stack. And Brock Bowers here is our tight end. I love it. Guys, in this range, who I do like, Harold Fannin, who Huron River Rat just took, I think looks pretty good. Would also say that Hunter Henry, a little bit undervalued for New England. You're getting a Mike Vrabel team coming in with Josh McDaniels. This is going to be a regressive offense for the most part. Hunter Henry's probably going to be the one they encourage him to target over and over and over again as a safety valve when they don't want him taking the reckless deep shots that Drake May does. So Hunter Henry, I think a really good part again. This range in tight end, like, yeah, you want your McBride, you want your Bowers if you get him. Pairing him with 2 of these tight ends here, I think is okay. But if you don't get your elite tight ends, just taking 3 from round 12 to round 15, I think is a really good tight end strategy. Trust anyone named Adam? Oh, I really wish I could think of like a serial killer named Adam or something. Adam, serial killer. Would you trust Adam Leroy Lane, a convicted murderer and suspected serial killer who's dubbed the Highway Killer? I wouldn't. Would you trust Jeffrey Dahmer, who killed Adam Walsh? Which is actually what led to the America's Most Wanted series, I believe. Because that was the guy's son. If you remember that, this is probably a boomer reference now. There's a show called America's Most Wanted. If you're not familiar with it, they used to show like the most hardened criminals in America, who people are looking for. And it was started by a guy because his son was killed by a serial killer who I guess was Jeffrey Dahmer. But, can't trust that Adam to not get killed by a serial killer, I guess. Hunter Henry is the only relevant pass catcher, and he's going much later because people are tired of drafting vets. Would be it. This guy taking 4 tight ends here. Pretty big run. Took Zach Ertz too for no fucking reason. Thanks, CRC. CRC, I don't love what he's doing in this draft. He has 5 wide receivers and 7 QBs and tight ends. How are you a red badge? We talked about this last year. Just a good reminder for everybody. Red badge drafters at this point, with how long Underdog has been around, doesn't guarantee you that they're actually a good drafter, are the red badges. And that is Exhibit A. All right. We need more RBs. Need another tight end. I mean, Jatavian's okay. Chig would be okay because we have a micro bet on Tennessee. Let's go Chig here. 2-5-7-2 build with Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift, Tyler Algier. A receiver, we've got Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Jalen Royals, Adam Thielen. And a tight end, Brock Bowers, Chigakonkwo. Definitely one more tight end coming in here. Really would have liked it to have been Zach Ertz for free. Think that Washington brings back Zach Ertz would be my guess, which sucks for Ben Sinnott, but Zach Ertz earned it with how he played this year. That's that. All right, I'm not going to pull up these chats, but I appreciate you guys highlighting other Adams who've done awful things. Caden Prather being drafted here. Why? I don't, whatever. It's the big board. It's how it goes, unfortunately. Same thing, though, like as last year's class where every rookie receiver got drafted, and I was pretty clear that you should not just draft every rookie receiver because it's very unlikely they all get playing time. It's what it is this year, except it's a worse receiver class. So Caden Prather is going to be a worse version of Roman Wilson, would be my guess, but we'll see. Were you the same guy who asked about Marcus Yarns before, or is this a different Marcus Yarns guy? Because I will not take Marcus Yarns no matter what. There's another, again, a class where people who love the draft process have said there's like 100 different RBs you could take, or like 20 they expect to get drafted and be on a depth chart and get meaningful opportunity, I guess, to get a job. And I don't buy that. It's never really the way it works out. But like, there's 20 guys that people expect to get drafted and have like some opportunity at RB. If Marcus Yarns is to come up for me, I don't know why he would come up now. Is how I feel about that. Okay, you're just Joshua. Thank God, Joshua. Thank you, Joshua, for joshing me. But like, people really do like Roman Wilson was one last year. I had to battle off the Roman Wilson people, and like I just don't like some guys. I just don't see how they get in the field year one, and like just because they're available to draft doesn't mean you have to draft them. Again, I would take Troy Franklin over a lot of these late rookies, which certainly my priors too. Would I buy Richardson again in the 13th, 14th? Yeah, I would. I think they have to give him a shot again to win that job. And he's now in year 3. Tank Dell probably would not draft. Very high likelihood he doesn't play at all next year. This guy Simeon, though. The guy in the 11-hole dog shit draft. This guy, I think a dog shit draft. There's a lot of them in the big board, which does make your chance of advancing much higher. We got Jatavian Sanders here to complete our tight end room. Another Carolina player. Thought he acquitted himself well enough last year. We got another year in the system with Bryce Young. I'll take that shot as tight end 3. Let's give this team a read right now. It's a 2.573. We need more at RB here. But it is what it is. We got Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift, Tyler Algier. At least guys with real roles, but this does feel not that great. Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Jalen Royals, Adam Thielen. And a tight end, Brock Bowers, Chigga Okonkwo, Jatavian Sanders. Don't really need the 3 tight ends when you take somebody as high as Brock Bowers in round 2. But these guys are stacked / correlated. Mini stack for Tennessee, full stack for Carolina. So we're going to take them here. Had a bunch of wonky drafts already where people take 4 straight QBs to start or gain one in the 3rd round. Wonder if or when they'll get tossed. I don't know. Big board last year, they tossed some early. Famously, my first stream draft last year got tossed in the big board. There have been a few as well where I saw guys getting taken weirdly and they haven't gotten tossed yet. I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. I'm sure at some point they'll get rid of them. They do a check for quality, but the big board, there is more leeway because of the fact that ADPs aren't solidified. So you might get that. And frankly, taking 4 straight QBs is not that weird. Gainwell in the 3rd, though, would be, I think, a sign of somebody throwing a draft. Nick Chubb, free at this point. This guy's had an awful draft, but I do think Nick Chubb's a good pick at 200. He's a free agent. He's the kind of guy a team brings in as a veteran presence to take some goal line work away from somebody who probably deserves it more. Nick Chubb, I think, is a good pick at 200. Even though, obviously, he was hurt last year. People are down because of that. He played like a shittier version of Nick Chubb when he came in. I think that he's still the same player. I would take that shot at 200. Javonte Williams, free agent for Denver this year. Very unlikely to come back would be my thought based on how the end of the year went. So Javonte, you get the hope that he goes somewhere else as a good back. More than likely, if I had to guess, that we're at the end of Javonte Williams' career in the NFL, where he goes down now to a team as like the free agent guy they bring in to compete. If Javonte goes to a team like Cincinnati, I would feel better about Chase Brown, and I would probably take shots at Javonte at that point. But I don't think Javonte gets a good landing spot because I don't think he's good, and I don't think the league thinks he's good. Audric Estime here, giving us a little more depth at RB. We can do that. Kareem Hunt, no guarantee he comes back to the Chiefs. Eckler, fine enough year. Yeah, and I do expect Washington to bring back Eckler and Robinson based on the contracts. And they liked both guys enough. Shot you bring in a third guy there just to give you some more opportunity for it. You'd hope you get maybe a breakout RB. But I think the issue I would have with Washington, I don't think they're going to be stand pat on defense. I don't think they're going to stand pat on offensive line. I think there's a chance they stand more pat at skill positions than they should, or they should probably bring in a third RB who could maybe be better than Brian Robinson and Eckler. I don't know if they will. They should probably bring in a receiver who could be better than Terry McLaurin, but I don't know if they will. I really don't think they're going to do it in free agency. That'd be my concern for Washington is like they end up running back a very similar team with like a few more additive pieces for depth more than for a really big upside. All right, Sammy here, all eyes and ears today. Favorite time of the year. Let's go Squirters. Yeah, it's certainly a time of year. People surprised to see Milroe not just doing great in pure passing tools, the Senior Bowl. He's not good. Yeah, he's not good. He's not accurate. Again, a worse version of AR is what you're getting with Jalen Milroe. But that could be enough to get drafted. End of the first round, top of the second. I don't think he should go higher than that personally. But we'll see what the combine testing does for him, which should be good. Commanders need to hit on a day 2 receiver. I would love to see Trey Harris go there. Would really love to see Trey Harris go there. Jaden Higgins, a rookie that people seem to mock a lot. 2nd, 3rd round. I'm not sold he's better than Xavier Hutchinson, who did exactly the same thing as Iowa State. But Higgins, maybe a shot at better athletic testing, less of a deep class. But Higgins, boundary receiver kind of guy. Looked okay to me in the numbers, but good target earner at 32% and a decent EPA, but I don't think he's a world beater. He was getting drafted higher before. 190, you could take your shot. But Higgins is one of those guys where he can get buried on a depth chart pretty easily. There's some bad teams in this draft, man. This guy in the 4 holes building like a legit very bad team. It's too many rookies. You have to have projected. You have to have like projectable players. You can't just take guys because it's fun to take new names. All right, so we have a 2-6-7-3 here. I feel like we're good at most positions. Justice Hill was a good backup back for Baltimore this year. Did his role. Jordan Mason, Garendo probably takes more work from him in year 2 for him. Got still Ben Sinnott here. I'll take the shot at Justice Hill. He had a real role. They called him a co-starter with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, another year of miles on the tires. We need more RB depth. So Justice Hill is my 7th RB off the board. Sammy defending me here from I don't know what, but don't fuck with Spags. Fuck those Mama Lukes that snipe out of spite. On behalf of Chris, thank you for your donation, dummy and or dummies. Now shut the fuck up. Thank you, Sammy. I appreciate it. We've been mostly unsniped today, besides the guy in 11 hole who doesn't know what he's doing. The guy in the 11 hole has Jordan Whittington as his 6th receiver. So that's whatever. Whittington's not a bad pick because Cooper Kupp might go, but one of my goals this year is to just be at peace with shitty drafters around me. When they affect my team, it is what it is. What do I think of the payout structure for the big board? Feels like they could have used $50K from the first towards the other top 10. I would agree with that. The fact, too, that if you max, you're not getting your full payout back by making the finals, a little bit tough. Again, I say enough for the stuff. Like, I'm not a nit about prize structures. I just want big prizes up top for the most part for a shot at. I will say, though, for the big board, for how well I did in the big board last year, getting 3 finalists across and 1 in the top 100, payout was okay. Like for me putting in 60 entries, whatever you saw, I made 3K in the finals. Like that was a good payout, but it wasn't as good as it felt like I deserved for as many things I got right relative to a year of work and drafting the teams in January, and in February and March, whatever. So that would be my trade-off for it, but it's a good enough price structure. Like 250K for a team you're drafting in January through March, like that's what you're hoping for, really. Nothing like a 3-hour. Yeah, this has been real fucking slow, man. It's an hour 15 here. Granted, I did start late, but this has been a sluggish draft. People really thinking before taking dog shit picks anyway. Anyway, we'll see what we get in this last round here. Wouldn't take Christian Watson, late season ACL tear. Not a good scene. Tank Dell, Watson, wouldn't take him at all. I don't think. It's just not worth it. Like every year people try to get cute with injury stuff. Sometimes it works out. I think if you get the news like Chris Godwin a couple years ago where it's like, oh, he's so ahead of schedule, he's doing great, then maybe you take the guy. But if it is like it is now, that's that. Luke Lachey, by the way, was almost like an idiot test for people, I think, to see who's doing prep or not. They had him ADP wise in like the 170s. He's one of the worst tight end prospects I've seen out of multiple years looking at the data, where his negative EPAs and everything, doesn't earn targets. I don't know why he was ever getting drafted, but if you drafted him, you shouldn't have. You just should do a little more work preparing, in my thought. You down here, Jackson Dart, I'll highlight as a free guy who I do think could end up getting somewhere where you could start a faint shot of him being a Bo Nix this year. In terms of the people not being on him, but tape is there. Stats are there. Trevor Etienne's having a good Senior Bowl. Still was not wowed by his numbers. I think this feels like a spot for an eighth receiver. Westbrook Akine got incredibly lucky last year. God, there's really nobody I like it all in the spot. Jalen Tolbert feels like Dallas brings somebody else in, but what if they don't? Tolbert for free, we'll do that. He didn't wow, I believe was the exact quote. Nobody at QB wowed, I believe was what the reports were. I don't care. Senior Bowl matters a little bit. It doesn't matter as much. Guys are going to dig into the stats. Guys are digging into the tape. Jackson Dart will show a lot more for that stuff. 2783 is our final team here. We got Jaden and Bryce Young at QB. We got Caleb Johnson, Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet, DeAndre Swift, Tyler Algier, Audric Estime, Justice Hill at RB. So started RB late. If you don't get an early RB, you're going to feel pretty naked. Still think we did a good job getting projectable guys who will either go back to their team and be good like Aaron Jones, or in free agency go to somewhere else and get an opportunity there. At receiver, Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Tet McMillan, Calvin Ridley, Keenan Allen, Jalen Royals, Adam Thielen, Jalen Tolbert, and at tight end, Brock Bowers, Chika Okonkwo, and Jatavian Sanders. So Carolina stacked up with lesser targets. Again, me just not trying to get only the top targets and stacks is one of my goals this year. So we got Thielen, we got Jatavian Sanders, we got the single stack with Jaden. Maybe a shot at Jalen Royals or McMillan goes to Washington would be the hope. But that's the final team, guys. So it was a long draft here. Again, stay tuned to the channel. The main thing I would ask you guys to do is subscribe with the notification bell. You'll know when I do more drafts. I'm going to figure out how many I'm going to be doing. I would love to do 5 days a week of drafts, but I'm not going to commit to it unless I know it's what Underdog wants to pay me for. So that's where we are with it right now with the big board. But stay tuned here. Of course, NFL DFS carries on. Splash Play NBA. More shows every day, Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. Preparing for NBA slates, so check that out. Of course, gamble responsibly, guys, even though it is always money time here. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow this show at Splash Play Pod. Shouts to all the paying members as well. And check out the other sponsors too. Underdog, $1,000 of bonus cash. Stochastic, 15% off. Promo code SPLASH down below. Unabated, $30 off. All these things linked in the description. Solver, if you want to build some DFS lines for Sims with ETR data, do that. But go ahead, check out one of them, guys. And I'll be back at 4 p.m. today for NBA, 5 p.m. today on Stochastic for the deeper dive. Check those out, and I'll see you guys again soon for another draft. So, hey, enjoy your days. Good luck. Draft responsibly. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.